Chapter 1167. I will be back, Lan Ling. The magnetic voice resounded throughout the entire Yin-Yang world. Gu Shengyin, the surrounding ghosts and monsters all looked at the tightly shut palace door with astonishment. They were all wondering what kind of story there was between Lord Lan Ling and the phoenix that had just left. It couldn't be anything bad. Some of the gossipy ghosts started to speculate in their hearts. That phoenix's tone just now was so intimate, and the two of them were so close to each other. Could it be that Lord Lan Ling finally decided to find a partner after being lonely for so many years? This was a big deal. The ghosts all expressed that they would definitely share this with their friends when they returned. As a result, the news of Lord Lan Ling being together with a phoenix spread throughout the entire Yin-Yang realm. Gu Shengyin didn't know that her gossip had already spread throughout the entire Yin-Yang world. In any case, no one would tell her about this matter. As for the system wouldn't find anything wrong with it if it didn't cause any substantial harm to the host. Now, Gu Shengyin was having a deep conversation with the system. Gu Shengyin asked, "System, are you really just a program without any emotions?" She was a little suspicious. The system's reaction a few times told her that things weren't that simple. A white light flashed across the system's body. "I'm sorry, host. Insufficient authority. The system is unable to answer." Gu Shengyin, this system, can't it change its tactics? Can't we have a pleasant conversation? On the other side, Zhu Ling returned to the sect in a daze. Her master almost fainted from anger when she saw the message she left behind. In addition to her anger, she couldn't hide her worry. This little disciple was really spoiled by her. She actually dared to do such an ungrateful thing. Who is Ghost King Lan Ling? Even he had to be respectful and courteous when facing her. Ling, this little girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, dared to directly carry a sword to the so-called exorcised demons and demons? Jiang Ling was the master. Originally, he didn't think that Jiang Ling could find the entrance to the Yin-Yang world, so he wasn't very worried. He only ordered a few disciples to go to the surrounding towns to find people. Jiang Ling still had some ability. If it was just an ordinary human town, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage. But after 10 days, when there was still no news from his little disciple, his master became anxious and almost went to visit Lan Ling Ghost King personally. At this time, a disciple came to report that Ling had returned. As soon as Jiang Ling saw her master, she immediately knelt down. The person who was originally prepared to vent his anger was shocked to see his little disciple who had always been mischievous sincerely admit his mistake and apologize. He even asked to go to the cliff of reflection to cultivate in seclusion for 3 years. His heart turned into deep worry. Ling, she couldn't have been wrong these few days outside, right? He even suspected that his little disciple's body had been taken over. Under her master's interrogation, Jiang Ling finally hesitantly told him about her previous experience. Of course, she hid the scene where Ghost King Lan Ling was suspected to be a hooligan. After listening to her, her master's heart, which had finally calmed down, became anxious again. His disciple actually met Ghost King Lan Ling. Chapter 1168. Listening to Jiang Ling's narration, her master also fell silent. Like everyone else, he had never seen the legendary Ghost King Lan Ling before. When he heard that the other party was a female ghost and a rare beautiful ghost, his expression was already a little strange. When he heard that the other party did not make things difficult for his little disciple at all and even let her return safely in the end, Jiang Ling's master's gaze could be described as seeing a ghost. But he understood the disciple he had raised since she was young. Jiang Ling was not lying. Her master originally thought that his little disciple was so sensible now. Since she already knew her mistake, then the punishment could be lighter. But this time, Jiang Ling seemed to have changed into a different person. She was determined to do as he said. She said, "Master, this time when I went out, I was just a frog at the bottom of a well. It's ridiculous that I was so short-sighted in the past. I thought that my meager strength was already a peak expert. Master, please fulfill your disciple's desire to improve." His disciple had already said so much. As a master, how could he say anything else? Her master sighed and said, "Fine, since this is your own request, I will agree to it. There's only one rule. After going up this cliff of reflection, you can't come out until you've reached a certain age. The cliff of reflection is bitterly cold. Don't regret it when the time comes." Jiang Ling-er's expression was firm. "Master, please don't worry. I will be responsible for my own words." Her master nodded when he saw this. Although he was a little reluctant to send his delicate little disciple to the cliff of reflection since she was young, he was more gratified in his heart. There was nothing to say about Ling-er's talent. It was just that her temper was a little impetuous. She had never been able to truly calm down and cultivate. This trip to Lanling seemed to have turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The Phoenix Clan. The Phoenix Clan was a natural-born divine clan. They lived in the extreme west of the 9 heavens. That was where the sun set and the light would never disappear. They were a clan that was always favored by the light. Feng Lin sat lazily on a parasol tree. The sun was about to set. He even felt that if he stretched out his hand, he would be able to touch the scorching temperature. "Feng Lin." Someone from the same clan called out to him. Feng Lin turned his head and saw a figure wearing a golden-red robe slowly walking towards him. The figure was tall and graceful. For some reason, Feng Lin recalled what Gu Shengyin had said to him earlier. That was true. Most of the phoenixes in the Phoenix clan were elegant and graceful, and they were basically all single. However, the reason was not because Feng Lin said that he was not popular, but because the Phoenix clan standards were too high. While he was thinking, the other party had already arrived in front of him. A clear voice entered his ears. "I heard that you gave away your feather?" The phoenix had many feathers, but there was only one that was worth mentioning at this moment. Every mature phoenix would give birth to the most beautiful and resplendent feather, and that feather could only be possessed by the person they had acknowledged from the bottom of their hearts. Once someone accepted the phoenix's feather, it meant that the other party had accepted the phoenix's confession of love. Feng Lin raised his eyebrows. "Yes, I gave it to someone. What's wrong?" The phoenix frowned and asked doubtfully, "Since he accepted your feather, why didn't he follow you to the land of Far West?" Following the phoenix to meet the clansman was also a necessary ritual. Chapter 1169. Feng Lin raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. He was too embarrassed to say that the other party didn't seem to know what the feather meant. With her temper, if she knew what the use of this feather of the phoenix was, she would probably destroy it immediately. Although the phoenix was very curious about the partner who could gain the approval of the arrogant Feng Lin, he didn't ask much when he saw that Feng Lin didn't want to say more. He left after saying a few words. Phoenixes were arrogant by nature, so they wouldn't force him to say anything. Meanwhile, Gu Shengyin received an inexplicable notification from the system that the mission had been successfully completed. "What's going on?" She was confused. The system replied, "The mission target of this world, Jiangling, is no longer a threat to the host. Without Jiangling, the host will continue the original fate of Ghost King Lanling. After the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation, the host will receive the decree of the god's court and be conferred the title of Lord Lanling." Gu Shengyin nodded and didn't say anything else. Without the pressure of the mission, Gu Shengyin started to cultivate and prepare for the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation in a few years' time. The system forgot to mention an accident, which was Feng Lin of the Phoenix race. In the original plot, this noble prince of the Phoenix race didn't have much interaction with Ghost King Lanling. "Lanling, this is the wine I saved for you from the King of God's banquet." He was smart. He knew that if he didn't find a reason, the other party wouldn't like him. And what reason could be better than the wine that Ghost Lord Lanling loved the most? Therefore, every time Feng Lin came, he would bring a pot of wine to the yin-yang world of Lanling. After he finished drinking the wine, he would be mercilessly chased out by Gu Shengyin. After a while, all the ghosts in the yin-yang world knew that there was a phoenix who was very attentive to their Lord Lanling. Gu Shengyin's attitude of not acknowledging him after drinking the wine, even some of her subordinates in the yin-yang world couldn't bear to look at it. "Lord Lanling, you see, every time you drink Lord Feng Lin's wine, it's your fault." The one who spoke was Jin, who had been serving Gu Shengyin. Ever since Wei Wei was injured, she had been sent by Gu Shengyin to follow the green-robed Taoist priest. She had not returned yet. Jin didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning was clear. Lord Lanling, aren't you a little too much? To be honest, Jin did not understand. Her impression of Lord Lanling had always been cold and aloof. She didn't seem like someone who would do something that required a certain level of shamelessness. Jin did not hear Gu Shengyin's reply. She lowered her head and felt a lingering fear in her heart. She wondered if Lord Lanling would blame her for this. Then he thought that he was being a busybody. How could he have a say in what Lord Lanling wanted to do? The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. She almost knelt down in front of Gu Shengyin and asked for forgiveness. Unexpectedly, she heard Gu Shengyin laugh from above. Lord Lanling laughed? Jin was so shocked that he didn't even care about etiquette. He lifted his head and looked at Gu Shengyin. Lord Lanling was really laughing. And it wasn't a cold laugh. It was the kind of laugh that he really found something interesting. Gu Shengyin smiled and looked at Jin. One of us is willing to be beaten and the other is willing to be beaten. Why are you so worried? He had never heard Lord Lanling speak to him in such a casual tone. Jin looked at Gu Shengyin's expression. When she mentioned Lord Phoenix, her face didn't have the coldness and disgust that she usually had when facing him. On the contrary, she was very calm and even had a smile on her face. One of them was willing to be beaten and the other was willing to be beaten. God. Jin felt that he seemed to have discovered something incredible. There was a slight change here. The Marquis Lanling was changed to Lord Lanling. As for why, Gao Lingji felt that Lord sounded more pretentious. Chapter 1170. This, Lord Lanling probably doesn't hate His Highness from the Phoenix clan as much as everyone thinks, right? On the contrary, looking at Lord Lanling's appearance, it's likely that His Highness doesn't just have an unrequited love. Although she doesn't know why her lord is acting so cold, Jin's heart is in her throat at this moment. Why would Lord Lanling let her know about such a secret? She's a bit nervous. Gu Shengyin looks at the female ghost's stiff body below, feeling helpless in her heart. She can roughly guess at Jin's thoughts, but even so, she's even more speechless. When she didn't tell her, the other party had to worry and admonish her. Well, now that she's told her, the other party is even more worried. Alright, if there's nothing else, you can leave. With Ghost King Lanling's temperament, it's impossible for her to personally explain anything to a subordinate. Jin has already been frightened enough today, so Gu Shengyin doesn't intend to continue scaring her, although she didn't intend to scare her at all. In another month, it will be the Yin-Yang world's annual Ghost City. In the past, the Yin-Yang world was completely separated from the human world. Unless it's a cultivator like that blue-clothed Taoist priest, ordinary people can't enter it at all. But the Ghost City is different on this day. A clever connection will appear between the Yin-Yang world and the human world. Of course, this doesn't mean that everyone can see the Yin-Yang world and enter it. It's just that some people with innate Yin physiques and a few specific people can coincidentally enter it. The ghost stories circulating in the human world come from this. On the day of the Ghost City, there's a rule in the Yin-Yang world that no conflict or bloodshed is allowed. This is the most important festival for ghosts, and no one is allowed to disrupt it. Of course, ghosts don't like humans coming to their world at this time. Usually, if such an unlucky person really appears, they'll prank them by showing their real body to scare them, and then invite them out. As for what that pitiful human will think after waking up, that's not something the ghosts will consider. All the ghosts are looking forward to the Ghost City. On that day, all the ghosts would transform into their most beautiful appearances, and the entire Yin-Yang world would be lit up with brilliant lights. This is the most important festival for all the ghosts. Soon the day arrived. Gu Shengyin, as the Ghost King who ruled over this part of the Yin-Yang world, naturally had to dress up and attend. She changed out of her usual red dress and put on the dress that the maidservants had carefully prepared for her. It was still a bright red color, but it was much more serious and formal. The long outer robe was embroidered with gold, and the back of the robe spread on the white jade floor. It was noble and gorgeous. Her casually scattered hair was tied up neatly with a golden hairpin, and a golden crown was placed on her head to symbolize her status. She sat in the treasure-fragrant carriage, looking at the bustling scene around her like a king inspecting her territory. All the taverns on the streets were hung with bright lanterns. The ghosts that usually didn't go out were all dressed up and walking out. The taverns were filled with customers drinking wine. Countless vendors were hawking their wares, and many girls in beautiful clothes were holding hands as they strolled through the streets with lanterns. If they didn't know in advance, who would have thought that such a scene would actually be a ghost market? Chapter 1171. Upon seeing Gu Xingyin's carriage, all the ghosts that passed by would stop in their tracks and salute her reverently. Although most of the ghosts had never seen the famous ghost Lord Lanling, they knew that this powerful ruler was the reason why the yin-yang realm of Lanling had always been so peaceful and safe. Ghosts were also related to each other. In the yin-yang realm of other places, many rulers were bloodthirsty and cruel, even devouring their own subordinates. In comparison, the ghost Lord Lanling was just a little colder, but the ghosts living in the yin-yang realm of Lanling were living a good life. As usual, Gu Shengyin patrolled the entire main street and came to a high platform that had been built in advance. Gu Shengyin sat on the main seat, and below her were countless ghosts of the yin-yang realm of Lanling. Gu Shengyin raised her wine cup and said loudly, "Another year in the ghost city. Let's have a good time together." Cheers and clangs of war broke out below, and the whole ghost city was filled with joy and harmony. At this moment, Gu Xingyin's expression suddenly turned serious. The ghosts closest to her immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Lord Lanling, what's wrong?" Gu Xingyin's expression turned ugly. She suddenly said loudly, "What brings you here, uninvited guests?" Swoosh! The entire sky seemed to have been torn apart by some invisible sharp weapon. Suddenly, densely packed figures wearing armor appeared in midair. They came with ill intentions. Almost at the same time, the ghosts that were immersed in joy a moment ago put down their wine cups and looked coldly at the figures in midair. Gu Shengyin stood up. She recognized the two figures at the front. They were the rulers of the two regions near Lanling, the Green Lamp Ghost Lord and the Yellow Spring Ghost Lord. The Green Lamp Ghost Lord's true body was originally a green lamp under the golden body of the Buddha in the Daxiangguo temple of the previous dynasty. Because of the incense from many pilgrims, he gained his own spiritual consciousness. Later on, when the previous dynasty was destroyed, the army stormed into the temple. The green lamp was stained with the blood of countless people, and he immediately became a devil. Finally, he became a ghost cultivator. As for the Yellow Springs Ghost King, he had a rather grand origin. It was said that he was a spirit formed from the water of the Yellow Springs in the 9 layers of hell. That was why he called himself Yellow Springs. These two ghost kings named themselves after their real bodies. Only Ghost King Lanling, who had no memories of the past, named himself after the region he ruled. Gu Xingyin's expression darkened. Neither the Green Lamp Ghost King nor the Netherworld Ghost King were easy to deal with. In terms of strength, if they fought one-on-one, they would be evenly matched. At most, she would be slightly superior. But from the looks of it, the two sides were obviously working together. Furthermore, the other party had brought so many armored ghost soldiers. It was obvious that they had come prepared. Hearing Gu Xingyin's question, the pale young man in a green robe stared at her without blinking and said, "Lanling, Yellow Spring, and I have heard that the Lanling yin-yang world is holding a ghost market today. We are here to celebrate." To be fair, the Green Lamp Ghost King's appearance was not bad. With his handsome face and the elegant and tranquil Buddhist temperament, he would be a graceful and rich young master in the mortal world. "Celebrate?" Gu Shengyin sneered. She did not show any sign of weakness even though her side was weaker. Bringing an army to celebrate? This is the first time I've heard of such a thing. Chapter 1172. She stood tall and straight, the golden buyao in her hair swaying slightly with her movements. Under the illumination of the lamplight, it reflected a dazzling brilliance, making people awe and dare not look at her directly. This was the aura of a leader of a region. Gu Shengyin looked at the two silent ghosts and coldly shouted, let's not beat around the bush. If the two of you are really here to celebrate, let's follow the rules. If the two of you take these people out and present your visiting cards, I will naturally welcome the two of you in as distinguished guests. But if the two of you are here to stir up trouble, she glanced at them, our Lanling region is not a soft persimmon that will not fight back when bullied. As if responding to her words, the ghosts of the Lanling region instantly reverted to their original appearances. For a moment, the lively atmosphere of the ghost market disappeared without a trace and was replaced by gusts of chilly wind. Lanling Ghost King is still so hot-tempered. Huangquan Ghost King looked like an unremarkable fatty. With a kind smile, he began to act as a peacemaker. I, Huangquan, have been entrusted by Brother Green Lamp to hold the fort for him. Brother Green Lamp, if you have something to say, let's make it clear now. Hearing this, Gu Xingyin turned her gaze to Green Lamp Ghost King. It seemed that he was the main character of today's matter. She just looked at Green Lamp Ghost King quietly and did not say anything to pressure him. But under such a gaze, Green Lamp Ghost King only felt a little uncomfortable all over. He secretly shivered in his heart. I thought that my strength was about the same as Lanling's, but now it seems that she is slightly stronger. But this is not important. No matter how strong she is, can she be stronger than me and Huangquan together? Therefore, under Gu Xingyin's gaze, Green Lamp Ghost King laughed heartily and said, Lanling, Brother Huangquan is right. Today, I have something to discuss with you. Gu Xingyin frowned. In the memory of Lanling Ghost King, there was no enmity between her and Green Lamp Ghost King. Why did he come with such great fanfare? Seeing that she did not speak, Green Lamp Ghost King continued, Today, I purposely chose to come at such a good time in the ghost market of the Lanling region. I want to take advantage of this auspicious day to propose marriage to you. Propose marriage? Not only Gu Xingyin was shocked, all the ghosts of the whole Lanling region were shocked. Gu Xingyin's mind went blank for a moment, and then she repeated the words of Green Lamp Ghost King, propose marriage? Green Lamp Ghost King seemed to have voiced out his inner thoughts. He no longer concealed the look in his eyes as he looked at Gu Xingyin with deep affection. Yes, Lanling, I have been for a long time. Gu Xingyin suddenly sneered. She raised an arm and pointed at Green Lamp Ghost King and the army of ghost soldiers behind him. You've brought so many ghost soldiers to propose marriage? Green Lamp Ghost King said gently, this is just a special method. If Lanling agrees, they are just here to witness our special moment. Gu Xingyin was not moved by his words. What if I don't agree? Green Lamp Ghost King was still as gentle as ever, but his words were not as gentle as his face. Then, these ghost soldiers will have to play their real role. That was a blatant threat. Gu Xingyin narrowed her eyes and stared at him. Are you threatening me, Green Lamp Ghost King? Green Lamp Ghost King laughed. No, I'm asking for your opinion. Today's 8th update. Since the Lunar New Year, there have been more than 10 people in my house every day. This feeling is too simple to break down. I can't sleep or write during the day, so I can only write at night. In the coming days, the update schedule may not be stable until the 8th day of the Lunar New Year. I will try my best to maintain 8 chapters a day. But if I'm really busy, please understand, baby. Don't wait until midnight. There may be an update, or there may not be. Chapter 1173. Jean had a fiery temper, so she was the first to lose her patience. She stood up and scolded Green Lamp Ghost King. Bah! Asking for advice? You're obviously threatening our Lord Lanling. Stop dreaming. Our Lord Lanling is not someone a despicable person like you can covet. Green Lamp Ghost King's face turned cold. He could tolerate Gu Xingyin's sarcastic remarks to him, but that didn't mean he could tolerate his dignity as a ghost king being challenged by a little girl. With a wave of his hand, a green beam of light shot towards Jean. The green light went straight for Jin's neck. Obviously, he had no intention of sparing her life. How could Gu Xingyin tolerate her people being bullied right under her nose? With a shake of her sleeves, she caught Green Lamp Ghost King's attack without leaving a trace. Green Lamp Ghost King, you're teaching my maidservant a lesson in my Lanling territory. You're looking down on me too much, aren't you? Green Lamp Ghost King glanced at Ajin with killing intent in his eyes. You should be taught a lesson for shooting your mouth off. Gu Shengyin put on a fake smile. Green Lamp Ghost King, you don't have to worry about my people. Then she added, what my maidservant said is exactly what I want. This was a clear and unceremonious rejection. Green Lamp Ghost King seemed to have expected this result. He didn't look surprised at Gu Shengyin's reply. He looked around the whole ghost city and said, I think the ghost city of the Lanling territory is really lively. If it turns into ruins, it will lose a lot of its beauty. Gu Shengyin looked at him coldly. I'm afraid the green lamp will dim without the lamp oil. Green Lamp Ghost King's expression changed completely when he saw that she wouldn't budge an inch. He said coldly, Ghost King Lanling, I know you're powerful, but no matter how powerful you are, can you defeat me and Brother Netherworld together? Furthermore, even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for the people of the Yin-Yang world. He looked at the angry ghosts below, and his voice seemed to be filled with endless bewitchment. Ghost King Lanling is powerful, so he might be able to protect himself, but the people of Lanling region won't be so lucky. It's such a pity that you were reduced to ashes in the ghost city. The meaning of his words was clearly to drive a wedge between them. Unfortunately, his wishful thinking was wrong. When the ghosts of the Lanling domain heard his words, none of them showed any signs of hesitation. Instead, they all spoke up. I will fight for Lord Lanling without fear of death. Fight for the Lanling region. Lord Lanling, please don't agree to this guy's request. Our Lord Lanling is the most honorable king. How can he be threatened by such a ghost? Green Lamp Ghost King looked at the ghosts of Lanling domain with an ugly expression. He thought to himself, Lanling Ghost King's ability to control them is indeed powerful. On the other hand, the Yellow Springs Ghost King was getting impatient and gave him a look. Green Lamp Ghost King cleared his throat and let his voice resound throughout the Yin-Yang world of the Lanling region. Cut the crap, Ghost King Lanling. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to marry me, or let my ghost army flatten the Lanling region? How arrogant of you! A dazzling light streaked across the night sky, and many ghosts were forced to take 2 steps back. Green Lamp Ghost King's expression changed greatly. When the light faded, a handsome man in a reddish-gold robe appeared beside Gu Shengyin. He stepped forward, shielding Gu Shengyin behind him, and stared at Green Lamp Ghost King intently. What did you just say? I don't think I heard you clearly. Green Lamp Ghost King's expression changed the moment he saw Feng Lin's face. The Phoenix Clan. Chapter 1174. Feng Lin's expression was very cold. At least, Gu Shengyin had never seen such a cold expression on his face. No matter when, Feng Lin always had a lazy smile on his face in front of her. For the first time, Gu Shengyin felt a murderous aura from this man. Feng Lin didn't answer Green Lamp Ghost King's question. Instead, he stared at him expressionlessly and repeated his words word by word. What did you say just now? I don't think I heard you clearly. Green Lamp Ghost King's expression changed. Looking at Feng Lin's appearance, he intuitively felt that the relationship between this Phoenix and Ghost King Lanling was unusual. His lips moved, but in the end he didn't say anything. On the other hand, Yellow Spring Ghost King felt that this was a good opportunity to build a good relationship with the Phoenix clan. He laughed and said to Feng Lin, It's nothing serious. It's just that my younger brother Green Lamp admires Ghost King Lanling. Today, taking advantage of the great day of the Ghost City, I came to propose marriage to the beauty. After saying that, he laughed and felt that he had done a good job as a peacemaker. Unfortunately, after he said that, no one present agreed with him. Feng Lin was still expressionless, but his expression became colder. He squeezed out the words from between his teeth. Propose marriage to the beauty? His icy eyes swept over Green Lamp Ghost King and Yellow Spring Ghost King. If I didn't hear wrong, you two are not only here to propose marriage, but also to force a marriage? Yellow Spring Ghost King was the first to realize that something was wrong. This phoenix seemed to be on the side of the Lanling territory. He thought quickly in his heart. The Phoenix clan was a natural divine clan. Even in the divine court, the Phoenix clan's status was extremely honorable. Moreover, it was said that the Phoenix clan was very united and very protective of their own. It was said that if a member of the Phoenix clan had a conflict with someone from another clan, no matter what, the other party would first help the Phoenix beat the other party up. If this Phoenix and Ghost King Lan Ling were old acquaintances, then what he and Green Lamp Ghost King did today must have angered the other party. Moreover, the other party probably wouldn't turn a blind eye to the current situation in the Orchid Tomb region. The Netherworld Ghostly King thought to himself. He felt that it wasn't worth it to agree to come to the Lanling domain with Green Lamp Ghostly King just because he was offered some benefits. Fortunately, everything hadn't started yet. Huang Quan Ghostly King sensed the tense atmosphere and suddenly said with a smile, "Brother Blue Lamp, you're not being honest. I thought you and Lanling Ghostly King were in love with each other, so I agreed to come with you to witness this marriage proposal. But look at it now, it doesn't seem to be the case." He shook his head and took a few steps back. Along with his movement, the ghost soldiers behind him took a step back in unison. The Huang Quan Ghost King was making his stance clear to Feng Lin. He would not get involved in this matter. Yellow Spring. Green Lamp Ghost King's face turned cold. Although he already knew that the Netherworld Ghostly King was a fence-sitter, he was still infuriated by the other party's shameless behavior. The Netherworld Ghostly King laughed and said, "Brother Blue Lamp, I can't help you with this matter today. It's up to you." Green Lamp Ghost King was furious, but he had to suppress his anger. He had already fallen out with Ghost King Lan Ling. At this time, he couldn't afford to have a conflict with the Netherworld Ghostly King. Chapter 1175. Green Lamp Ghost King looked at Feng Lin and Gu Shengyin with an unpleasant expression. At the same time, he was thinking quickly. The Lanling region's strength was about the same as his. In terms of strength, the Lanling Ghost King was even stronger than him. Initially, he had the help of the Netherworld Ghost King and was confident of victory. However, now that the Netherworld Ghost King had retreated, he was left alone. He had no chance of winning against Gu Shengyin. Otherwise, he would not have paid such a huge price to get the Netherworld Ghost King's help. And now, there was the addition of the mysterious Phoenix. Green Lamp Ghost King knew that his plan today would most likely not come to fruition. He forced a smile and said to Gu Shengyin affectionately, "Lanling, I know that my methods today may be a little too extreme. However, you have to know that I care too much about you. I'm afraid that you won't like me." At this point, Green Lamp Ghost King could only try his best to settle the matter peacefully. In his opinion, it would not benefit Lanling Ghost King to have a conflict with him. Since he had given in, she would not pursue the matter further. However, he was wrong. Not only was he wrong, but he was terribly wrong. Gu Shengyin was not a pushover. Feng Lin, who was beside her, was even more furious. Gu Shengyin looked at Green Lamp Ghost King and said with a faint smile, "Green Lamp Ghost King, did you remember wrongly? I didn't hear such gentle words just now. I remember that Green Lamp Ghost King was boasting that he would flatten the Lanling region." Her expression turned cold instantly. "I don't care what you're thinking, Green Lamp Ghost King. I won't let anyone who dares to covet my Orchid Tomb region off the hook. Green Lamp Ghost King, the Lanling region. From today onwards, we officially declare war on you." Green Lamp Ghost King did not expect Gu Shengyin to be so hot-tempered. She did not give him any leeway at all. His expression was a little ugly as he forced himself to say, "Lan Ling, it's just a misunderstanding." But Gu Shengyin reached out her hand to stop him. "Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, we both know in our hearts that it's a misunderstanding. Now that someone has come knocking on our door, do you think a misunderstanding can be resolved?" Green Lamp Ghost King, Lan Ling Ghost King's reputation is not that cheap. Also, don't call me Lan Ling. Not any Tom, Dick, or Harry has the right to call me by my name. Once these words came out, it could be said that they had completely shed all pretenses of cordiality. Green Lamp Ghost King's expression finally turned cold. "Ghost King Lan Ling, do you really want to declare war on me? This is not a good thing for your Lan Ling region. Your actions are just a moment of anger. Have you ever thought about how many Lan Ling ghost soldiers' lives will be lost?" Gu Shengyin was disdainful. Green Lamp Ghost King was still trying to drive a wedge between them. After all, he was the ruler of a region. All he knew how to do was play such dirty tricks. He did not have the bearing of a ruler at all. Green Lamp Ghost King, do you dare to accept my challenge? She shouted coldly, impatient to talk too much with him. Gu Xingyin's voice, which was infused with spiritual power, reverberated in the sky of the Lanling region for a long time. All the ghosts heard her question. And as if in response to their king, many ghosts also shouted loudly, Green Lamp Ghost King, do you dare to accept my challenge? Green Lamp Ghost King, do you dare to accept my challenge? Chapter 1176. Green Lamp Ghost King's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. Fine. Green Lamp Ghost King was, after all, the lord of a region. If he did not accept Gu Xingyin's provocation, the ghost soldiers behind him would be dissatisfied. Ghost King Lan Ling, don't you regret this? He looked at Gu Xingyin coldly. She won't regret it, but I'm not sure if you will, a cold male voice answered him. Green Lamp Ghost King had a bad feeling when he heard Feng Lin's voice. What he was most afraid of was that Feng Lin would interfere in this matter. A phoenix alone was not scary, but the entire Phoenix God clan behind her was not something Green Lamp Ghost King could afford to offend. Green Lamp Ghost King looked at Feng Lin and said in a deep voice, "This is a private matter between me and Ghost King Lan Ling. Your Excellency Phoenix, it's better if you don't interfere." Feng Lin did not even want to look at him. Lan Ling's matter is my matter. Green Lamp Ghost King had a bad feeling when he heard Green Lamp Ghost King calling Lan Ling so intimately. He looked up at Gu Xingyin and Feng Lin, who were standing close to him. He then looked at Gu Xingyin, who kept silent after Feng Lin spoke. He had a ridiculous guess. Soon, Feng Lin's words confirmed his guess. If I don't stand up for the woman I like when she's being bullied in front of me, am I still a man? Green Lamp Ghost King stared at the two with his eyes wide open, as if he could not digest the meaning behind their words. Lan Ling Ghost King did not refute his words, and the ghosts of the Lan Ling region did not look surprised either. What did this mean? It meant that the relationship between this phoenix and Lan Ling Ghost King was not ordinary. If he had known earlier that Lan Ling Ghost King had such a relationship with the Phoenix clan, he would not have come here so hastily. Unlike Green Lamp Ghost King, Yellow Spring Ghost King was filled with joy after his initial shock. Fortunately, he had stopped at the crucial moment. The Phoenix clan was extremely sentimental. It was said that once they recognized a partner, they would only have that person in their eyes for the rest of their lives. In the Phoenix's eyes, Green Lamp Ghost King was trying to steal its mate. No one would be able to tolerate such a thing. Green Lamp Ghost King seemed to have kicked an iron plate this time. Huang Quan Ghost King was still gloating when Feng Lin stepped forward. "Let's duel." His nonchalant words made Green Lamp Ghost King's expression change drastically. Normally, a duel would not be carried out unless there was a life or death grudge between the two parties. Unlike a battle, a duel could be carried out by force. Under the approval of the Heavenly Tao, the two sides engaged in a one-on-one battle. As for the winner, they could deal with the loser as they pleased, regardless of life or death, and they would not bear any karma. When it was hot, the Heavenly Tao would not easily recognize a duel unless the reason was approved by it. Feng Lin was not worried about this. It was not uncommon to duel for the sake of the woman he loved. He was also in the right. Of course, this was not what he was most confident about. The Phoenix clan was a natural-born divine beast. They were born with the fortune of heaven and earth. In the eyes of the Heavenly Tao, they were like its own children. It was as if he was using cheats. Sure enough, Feng Lin was right. Almost at the same time when he made the duel oath, the sound of thunder flashed in the sky. The Heavenly Tao agreed to his oath. Chapter 1177. Green Lamp Ghost King looked terrible. Anyone who was forced into a duel like this would definitely be in a bad mood. Moreover, his opponent seemed to be much stronger than him. However, there was no way he could refuse a duel recognized by the Heavenly Way. From the beginning to the end, Gu Xingyin stood quietly behind Feng Lin without saying a word. She seemed to have tacitly agreed to let Feng Lin stand up for her. For a woman to be willing to let a man stand up for her, This in itself represented an unusual meaning. After Feng Lin sensed Gu Xingyin's subtle thoughts, he had to admit that he was ecstatic. Did this mean that the other party's attitude towards him was very different from before? Feng Lin's ecstasy was reflected in his extra effort against Green Lamp Ghostly King. Gu Xingyin was not worried at all about the outcome of this duel. Green Lamp Ghost King's skills were even worse than his, and Feng Lin's. Even if Gu Xingyin did not want to admit it, she was indeed no match for him. Bang! With the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground, even the ghosts of the Lanling domain could not bear to look at it. It was too cruel. The object that fell to the ground was none other than Green Lamp Ghost King. For the umpteenth time, Green Lamp Ghost King had been pulled up and thrown down as if he was a piece of trash. Green Lamp Ghost King's spiritual energy was so strong that such a fall could not cause him much harm. However, Green Lamp Ghost King would rather have his opponent give him a sword strike. He knew that Feng Lin was doing this on purpose. He was humiliating him on purpose to avenge Lanling Ghost King and weaken the morale of his ghost soldiers. Even if Green Lamp Ghost King succeeded in leaving the Lanling domain this time, he would be humiliated for the rest of his life. How could he convince the others in the future? Feng Lin punched out fiercely again, sending him flying out. Green Lamp Ghost King was not in the mood to think about what would happen next. It was still unknown whether he could escape this calamity. At the same time, Green Lamp Ghost King's fear of Feng Lin reached its peak. In the beginning, he did not think that the phoenix would be much stronger than him. Even if she was slightly stronger than him, it should not be by much. But when he really faced this man, he realized how naive his previous thoughts were. He had no power to fight back at all. This was the only thought in Green Lamp Ghost King's mind. This man's strength was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. Feng Lin patiently grinded with him for a while. In his heart, he reckoned that it was enough to vent his anger and humiliate him. His 5 fingers stretched out into a claw and pierced through Green Lamp Ghost King's lower abdomen. Ah! Green Lamp Ghost King's miserable howl spread across the entire Lanling domain. He looked at Feng Lin with resentment and unwillingness. You actually destroy his Dantian. Green Lamp Ghost King had thought of many possibilities, but in his mind, the worst outcome was that Feng Lin would kill him. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that not only would he not die, but his Dantian would be crippled instead. This was much crueler than taking his life. Be it human or ghost, the Dantian was the source of their strength. Feng Lin did not want his life, but destroyed his Dantian. How vicious was this? Chapter 1178. The world of ghosts and monsters was much simpler than the human world. They only followed one principle: the strong ones were respected. The reason why Green Lamp Ghost King could become Green Lamp Ghost King was because of his own powerful strength. He defeated and even killed all the ghosts who opposed him and suppressed all the voices of dissent. That was why all the ghosts and monsters were convinced today. However, once his strength was damaged and he could no longer suppress the dissatisfaction of his subordinates, the consequences were imaginable. Countless ghosts had clearly seen how Feng Lin had crippled his Dantian today. Such news could not be hidden even if he wanted to. Green Lamp Ghost King believed that even if he was lucky enough to return to the territory under his jurisdiction, his restless subordinates would not be able to hold back and bare their fangs at him in less than a month. At that time, he would be thrown off the high and mighty throne and fall into the dust in a sorry state. He would even have to wag his tail and beg for pity from the person who had once bowed to him in order to save his life. Feng Lin just glanced at Green Lamp Ghost King, who was kneeling on the ground with a resentful face, as if looking at him more would make him dirty. He walked toward Gu Xingyin. Almost at the moment he saw Gu Xingyin, his face melted from the coldness of winter to ice and snow. The closer Gu Xingyin came, the softer his face became. By the time he came to her side, his signature lazy smile had already appeared on his face. Lan Ling. He didn't say much and just called out to her gently. Gu Xingyin felt as if he saw a tail wagging behind Feng Lin. Feng Lin's movements were telling him the same thing. Please praise me. She could not help but smile. For the first time, she said to Feng Lin calmly, "Thank you." Although it was just this, Feng Lin was already quite satisfied. Lan Ling smiled at him, and she talked to him in a very gentle tone. Instantly, his gaze toward Green Lamp Ghost King was not as cold as before. It was all thanks to this tactless guy that he had such a good chance to be the hero and save the beauty. However, it seemed that Lan Ling was very satisfied. If he had known earlier, he would have hit harder. Green Lamp Ghost King, their leader, had been crippled, while Yellow Spring Ghost King had retreated when he saw that the situation was unfavorable. The so-called alliance between the two was simply a joke. In the end, Gu Shengyin did not make things difficult for the ghost soldiers brought by Green Lamp Ghost King. Instead, she let them drag the half-dead Green Lamp Ghost King out. As for the Lanling region, after the crisis was resolved, the lively ghost city was once again restored. This time, Feng Lin naturally did not leave. Throughout the night, his body was covered in lanterns given to him by the kind ghosts, as well as some fresh flowers and fine wine. It seemed that this time, he had stood in front of Gu Shengyin and acted as a hero. Such an action had fully gained the approval of the ghosts of the Lanling domain. What made Feng Lin most happy was that Gu Shengyin's attitude towards him had softened. Not only did she take the initiative to talk to him, she even personally gave him a toast. For the first time, Feng Lin, who had always been treated with disdain, could not restrain the excitement in his heart because of a woman's slight favor. Feng Lin could feel his abnormal heartbeat. He could not help but cover his face and chuckle softly. This time, he had really fallen into his trap. Chapter 1179. After the incident with Green Lamp Ghost King, Feng Lin seemed to have become famous in the entire Lanling territory. He began to frequent the Lanling territory, and Gu Shengyin no longer treated him as coldly as before. Feng Lin never hid his feelings for Gu Shengyin, so all the ghosts in the entire Lanling territory knew that a Phoenix God clan member was pursuing their king. Gu Shengyin's attitude toward him was also different from all the people who pursued her in the past. No one would believe that there was nothing fishy between the two of them. Therefore, although there was no news about Gu Shengyin and Feng Lin, everyone tacitly agreed that they were a couple. However, Feng Lin felt wronged. Although Gu Shengyin's attitude toward him had softened a lot, he swore that their relationship was still at the stage of drinking and chatting face to face, and they had never crossed the line at all. "I have some matters to attend to in my clan, so I won't be able to come for a while," Feng Lin said to Gu Shengyin. Gu Shengyin nodded. Counting the days, her 69 heavenly tribulations seemed to be coming soon. "You must remember to tell me if you have any matters to attend to." Feng Lin took out a few jade talismans from his sleeve. "These are stained with my blood essence. You just need to crush them, and I'll know immediately and rush over." Gu Shengyin smiled helplessly. Okay, don't worry." The two of them drank until they were drunk. Feng Lin returned to his clan, and Gu Shengyin began to prepare for her heavenly tribulations. Ghosts' heavenly tribulations increased according to their strength. For example, Gu Shengyin was now in the Ghost King realm, and the most powerful heavenly tribulation in the Ghost King realm was the level 6 heavenly tribulation. When her strength rose to the Ghost Lord realm in the future, she would have to face an even more powerful 99 heavenly tribulations. However, 99 heavenly tribulations were so powerful that even those in the Ghost Lord realm rarely encountered them, so Gu Shengyin did not think about it for the time being. Soon, the day of Gu Shengyin's tribulation arrived. She had made ample preparations, and the location she had chosen was a lonely mountain peak in the Lanling region. Since midnight, she had been sitting alone at the peak of the mountain, waiting for the arrival of the tribulations. When the first ray of light at dawn broke the silence of the night, the sun broke through the sky and shone on the earth. In the sky above the area she was in, dark clouds rolled and roared. Gu Shengyin stood up and looked up at the strange phenomenon in the sky. The lightning tribulation was coming. At the foot of the mountain, many ghosts from the Lanling domain were also watching this scene nervously. The power of the lightning tribulation would increase exponentially with the number of people undergoing the tribulation. These ghosts knew that they did not have the ability to withstand the 6-9 lightning tribulation, so they could only watch nervously from the foot of the mountain. Gu Shengyin frowned as she looked at the rolling thunderclouds above. This scene seemed a little too grand. However, she did not have much time to think about it, because the first lightning tribulation had already arrived. A purple lightning tribulation roared from the thunderclouds above and struck down towards Gu Shengyin. Just when it was about a meter away from Gu Shengyin's head, a translucent barrier suddenly appeared above her. Boom! The barrier firmly blocked the lightning tribulation. This was the first preparation that Gu Shengyin had prepared for this tribulation, a formation barrier. According to her estimation, this formation could at least withstand the first 20 lightning tribulations with the weakest power. However, reality told her that she seemed to have guessed wrong. Chapter 1180. Because when the 16th tribulation lightning struck, the barrier that was already on the verge of collapse finally seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure and collapsed. Gu Shengyin's heart felt that something was wrong. 16 and 20 did not seem to have much difference, but at this time, the difference was like heaven and earth. The power of this heavenly tribulation was much stronger than what she had imagined. This was not normal. Gu Shengyin had read up on countless information. She had already made preparations for the heavenly tribulation by estimating the power of the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation. But she still underestimated it. Just as she was thinking with a frown, the 17th tribulation lightning accompanied by the black wind whistled down. Gu Shengyin snorted coldly. She raised her right hand and a white umbrella with red leaves appeared in her hand. Tian Luo umbrella, a top-grade defensive magic weapon. She had prepared the second line of defense for this. Gu Shengyin spun the heavenly Luo umbrella and threw it into the air. The umbrella automatically opened and spun in the air. A misty halo was emitted. The aggressive tribulation lightning fell on the surface of the Tian Luo umbrella. Like magma melting into the ice sea, it instantly disappeared without a trace. Seeing that the Tian Luo umbrella successfully blocked the 17th tribulation lightning, Gu Shengyin's face did not have the slightest joy. Instead, it became very serious. She was now very sure that there was something wrong with this heavenly tribulation. Even in the original plot, the 6th-level heavenly tribulation that Ghost King Lan Ling encountered was not so powerful. Gu Shengyin wanted to ask the system what happened. But the system had already told her before. When a cultivator went through the heavenly tribulation, they were completely under the control of the heavenly Tao. At this time, it was not convenient for the system to come out. If the heavenly Tao found out that they were outsiders, it was very likely that they would be attacked crazily. The only thing she could do now was to endure it. 20, 30, 40. When the 47th tribulation lightning came, a red silk flew out of Gu Shengyin's sleeve. This was her natal magic weapon. All of her defensive methods had been used up. The remaining 8 most powerful tribulation lightning bolts had to be withstood by herself. Gu Shengyin's expression was calm, as if what she was facing was not an extraordinary heavenly tribulation at all. Only when he was extremely calm could he unleash his greatest strength. 47, 48, 49, 50. 51. Gu Shengyin could not help but bleed from the corner of her mouth. Her internal organs must have been damaged. 52. Her hand, which was holding the red silk, began to tremble slightly. 53 bolts of lightning. Gu Shengyin coughed out a large mouthful of blood. She felt a sharp pain in her heart and lungs. She raised her head to look at the increasingly terrifying sky. She silently mobilized all the spiritual energy in her body to receive this bolt of lightning with all her strength. 54. The thunderbolts, which seemed to be capable of destroying the heavens and exterminating the earth, shrouded Gu Shengyin with endless power. No one could see clearly what was happening inside. All the ghosts watching from the side felt their hearts clench as they watched the result with widened eyes. Boom! Everything dissipated, and Gu Shengyin's somewhat unstable figure appeared before everyone's eyes. She had withstood it. Gu Shengyin's mouth continued to bleed uncontrollably. The red silk in her hand became even more vibrant, that was the color of blood. It was finally over. She could not help but smile as she raised her head to look at the sky. Although the power of the tribulation lightning was much greater, at least she had withstood it. Then, in the next second, her smile froze on her face. The dark, churning thunderclouds mixed with the howling purple lightning did not calm down. What was reflected in her dark eyes was that immediately after, a bolt of lightning even more powerful than the last bolt of tribulation lightning was heading towards her. It struck her head. Chapter 1181. What's going on? Gu Shengyin couldn't help but curse in her heart. But at this time, no matter how much she wanted to curse, she had to endure this lightning tribulation first. Another pitch-black wound appeared on his body, which was already riddled with scars and scars. Gu Shengyin felt that she didn't even have the strength to stand up. The lightning tribulations were always more powerful than the last. In the later stages, the power of each lightning tribulation would increase exponentially. Gu Shengyin didn't have the time to think about why there were more than 54 lightning tribulations. She could only numbly circulate the remaining spiritual energy in her body, trying her best to resist the lightning tribulations that mercilessly struck her body. And the ghosts watching from afar at the foot of the mountain were completely stunned. Originally, when they saw that Gu Shengyin had successfully passed the 6-9 lightning tribulation, before they could even cheer, they were caught off guard by the situation that followed. Wasn't it the 6-9 lightning tribulation? Why wasn't it over yet? It wasn't until a few more lightning tribulations struck that some of the more quick-witted people turned to look at Gu Shengyin. Lord Lanling, it seems like she can't hold on much longer. Ajin was so anxious that her eyes were red. Wasn't it the 6-9 lightning tribulation? Now it's already 60. Why isn't it over yet? She pulled an elder from the Lanling domain beside her and asked. That elder also shook his head with a pale face. He also didn't know why Lord Lanling would encounter such a thing. The most helpless thing was that they couldn't help at all in such a situation. They could only look anxiously and futilely at Gu Shengyin, secretly hoping that their ghost king could hold on. But even Ajin, whose cultivation was not high enough, could see that Gu Shengyin was already an arrow at the end of its flight. And in the sky, the dark rolling thunderclouds showed no signs of dissipating. Gu Shengyin looked at the black tribulation clouds in the sky with some despair. Dark purple lightning flashed in the clouds, making rumbling sounds. It's over now. I'm afraid I'll be the first to be struck to death by lightning, the mission enforcer said. At this time, there was almost no part of her body that was intact. Her dantian was also empty. The stinging pain from the wounds on her body was mixed with the feeling of weakness due to the exhaustion of her strength. At this moment, she just wanted to close her eyes and lie down without caring about anything else. He was really tired. As she thought of this, the last trace of spiritual power that she had gathered in her palm completely dissipated. In any case, based on his current situation, he definitely wouldn't be able to survive the next tribulation lightning. Gu Shengyin only glanced at the purple lightning that was rapidly forming in the dark thunderclouds, before allowing it to strike down towards her. Fortunately, she didn't agree to Feng Lin's request. She thought that if she was with him and encountered such a thing, how sad would Feng Lin be? Fortunately, there was nothing between the two of them now. At most, he would be sad for a while, and then he would be able to recover. Just as she closed her eyes, a loud and clear cry suddenly entered her ears. That cry was like the sound of jade, like the sound of a spring. Gu Shengyin even saw that the places on her body that were constantly bleeding due to the lightning sea had already healed and formed scabs in an instant. The cry of the phoenix was rumored to be able to revive the dead. Even if it was exaggerated, the cry of the phoenix was really effective on external injuries. Chapter 1182. Gu Shengyin opened his eyes, and as soon as he turned his head, he saw a sea of red that was as red as fire filling his vision. The phoenix, whose entire body was burning with raging flames, recklessly crashed into the lightning tribulation, using its own body to withstand the lightning tribulation that fell on Gu Shengyin's body. Gu Shengyin watched as the phoenix raised its beautiful neck and opened its mouth to let out a high-pitched cry. Gu Shengyin's heart tightened. The lightning tribulation had never allowed others to help. If a second person entered the range of the lightning tribulation, then the power of the lightning tribulation would increase by several times in an instant. Even if Feng Lin's strength was so strong that even Gu Shengyin couldn't see it clearly, could he really withstand this obviously abnormal lightning tribulation? A breeze blew past, and the phoenix that was still in midair instantly turned into its human form and returned to Gu Shengyin's side. You shouldn't have come. Gu Shengyin looked at him seriously. Feng Lin's expression was rarely serious. If I didn't come, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Gu Shengyin shook her head gently. But if you came, you might die. Feng Lin suddenly smiled. He reached out and grabbed Gu Shengyin's hands that were still stained with blood. Ignoring the stains on them, he brought them to his mouth and kissed them gently. If I can be buried under this lightning tribulation with you, it would be a good ending. He kissed Gu Shengyin's pale face with some heartache. This time, Gu Shengyin didn't refuse him. You go and stay here. Leave this to me. Gu Shengyin didn't refuse. In her current physical condition, if she insisted on being brave, it would only cause trouble for Feng Lin. Feng Lin stood with his back facing her. The strong wind blew his fiery red robe until it fluttered. The black clouds in the sky rolled and roared angrily, as if they wanted to teach this intruder a bloody lesson. Looking up at the powerful lightning tribulation above, Feng Lin suddenly turned back with a smile. Lan Ling, if we are lucky enough to survive this time, are you willing to be my partner? Gu Shengyin nodded gently. Then, she watched as the man was drowned in lightning. 62, 63, 64. The man was still dressed in fiery red clothes, but his face was even paler. Gu Shengyin raised her head and looked coldly at the sky. The heavenly Tao is ruthless because it is fair. Then, today I, Lan Ling, will ask this question in front of the lightning tribulation. Is the heavenly Tao is unfair to me? Boom! In response to her question was a lightning tribulation was even more powerful than the previous lightning tribulation. With such a momentum, even if she was at full strength, she wouldn't be able to take this blow. Gu Shengyin subconsciously looked at Feng Lin, only to see Feng Lin standing tall amidst the tribulation clouds. It was Feng of the lightning tribulation of the clouds the heavens, the of the lightning tribulation of the lightning tribulation of the lightning tribulation clouds. This was the last scene she saw before she fainted. When she woke up again, Gu Shengyin felt that her whole body was full of spiritual energy, and her strength seemed to be much stronger than before. But she wasn't in the mood to care about this. She opened her eyes and looked around. What entered her eyes was a magnificent sight. Everything she saw was exquisite and gorgeous. She didn't see the person she wanted to see. System. Gu Shengyin had many doubts in her heart. The system said, "Host, your mission didn't fail, and Feng Lin is fine." Hearing this, her heart was relieved. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but ask, "What happened?" Chapter 1183. The system briefly explained. It turned out that the thunder tribulation that Gu Shengyin experienced was not the 69 heavenly tribulations that should have appeared when the Ghost Lord broke through, but the 99 heavenly tribulations that could only appear when the Ghost Lord broke through. Gu Shengyin was relieved when she heard this. No wonder. With her current strength, she could not survive the 99 heavenly tribulations. She could not help but think of Feng Lin again. How did he survive the 99 heavenly tribulations in the end? Why did the plot deviate this time? In the original plot, what Ghost Lord Lan Ling experienced was indeed the 69 heavenly tribulations. The answer given by the system made Gu Shengyin speechless. The system said, "Host, your last few words when you questioned the way of heaven worked." Gu Shengyin's eyes widened. The system transmitted a memory to her mind. It was during the tribulation. When the lightning was about to strike Feng Lin, Gu Shengyin's question appeared, and the lightning tribulations strangely paused for a moment. Then, everything seemed to be still. The thunder tribulation hung dangerously above Feng Lin's head, and finally dissipated directly. At the same time, a golden ray of light pierced through the clouds and landed on the bodies of the two men who were riddled with wounds. Not only were their injuries completely healed, but they even received a gift that they could not get during the tribulation. The way of heaven was compensating them for what they had done wrong. Then the point was, why did I have the 99 heavenly tribulations? Gu Shengyin asked the key question. To be honest, if Feng Lin had not come at the critical moment, she would have been buried in the thunder tribulation. The system replied, "The way of heaven made a mistake in judgment and judged your strength to be one level higher." Gu Shengyin was surprised. How could this be? How could the way of heaven make a mistake? The system said, under the divine court, the highest thunder tribulation is the 99 heavenly tribulations. Host, according to the strength of your divine soul, if it were not for the fact that this world can only withstand the 99 heavenly tribulations at most, it would be far more than that. Gu Shengyin was shocked. I remember that the strength is determined according to the potential and cultivation level. When did it look at the divine soul? The system replied straightforwardly, so, the heavenly axiom made a mistake this time. Gu Shengyin thought for a moment and asked, will the heavenly Tao just casually compensate us? She was unconvinced in her heart. She had almost lost her life, and this was completely the fault of the heavenly Tao. She was extremely resentful in her heart. The system replied, no, host. The heavenly Tao will be severely punished, more severely than you know. Gu Shengyin narrowed her eyes. How do you know? The system replied, the host does not have sufficient authority to inquire about the above questions. Gu Shengyin, you whet her appetite but don't solve it. Whenever it comes to a crucial point, you always play dumb. System, you can do it. She knew the system's temperament. If it didn't want to say something, no matter what she did, the system wouldn't say it. She could only change the topic. Where is this place? Where is Feng Lin? In fact, she wanted to ask this question immediately, but she was afraid that she would get a bad answer, so she held back. Now that she knew that Feng Lin was safe, Gu Shengyin dared to ask with confidence. This is the territory of the Phoenix God clan in the far west of the Divine Court. Gu Shengyin's eyes widened. Wasn't this Feng Lin's hometown? Lan Ling, you're awake? A gentle voice came from outside the hall. Chapter 1184. Gu Shengyin raised her head and saw a man in a fiery red robe walking in with a smile on his face. Gu Shengyin immediately sensed his aura. Very good, after going through a lightning tribulation, this man seemed to be more and more unfathomable. Moreover, as the system said, the way of heaven had compensated the two of them. At least at this moment, Gu Shengyin didn't notice any injuries on Feng Lin's body. She took a few steps forward and walked to Feng Lin's side. You brought me to the divine court? Feng Lin smiled and took her hand. Yes. At that time, I saw that you had been unconscious and was worried about leaving you alone in the yin and yang world, so I took the initiative to bring you to my side. He looked at Gu Shengyin quietly, lowering her eyes and not speaking, and thought that she was unhappy. He said softly, Lan Ling, I want to ask, under that lightning, do your words still count? That sentence, Gu Shengyin thought of the scene when he confessed to her. With the lightning in the sky as a companion, such a scene was novel and romantic enough. She raised her eyebrows and smiled, and there seemed to be fine starlight falling from the bottom of her eyes. I, Lan Ling, naturally do what I say. I never know what it means to go back on my words. A smile spread on Feng Lin's face. Gu Shengyin's words undoubtedly admitted her attitude in disguise. He looked at Gu Shengyin's calm expression, but her ears were a little red. He only felt that her character was really cute. He suddenly thought of something and asked Gu Shengyin, do you still have the feather I gave you with my name engraved on it? Gu Shengyin took out the feather that had always maintained a golden red color and faint flames from the storage ring. Seeing this, Feng Lin smiled and said, Lan Ling, you are still so confident in keeping it. Obviously, you have feelings for me before. Gu Shengyin glanced at him sideways. Come on, I just think that the phoenix's feather is a good thing. There's no need to waste it. Feng Lin chuckled. Okay. However, this is indeed a good thing. He slowly explained this rule of the Phoenix clan to Gu Shengyin. It was rare for Gu Shengyin to crack a joke with him. Good for you. It turns out that you've been eyeing me since so early on. Feng Lin pulled her into his arms. I've told you so many times that I fell in love with you at first sight, but you didn't believe me. Let's go. I'll take you to see the famous phoenix forest of our phoenix clan in the Three Realms. Feng Lin held Gu Shengyin's hand and walked forward. Along the way, he naturally asked Gu Shengyin about the lightning tribulation. This kind of thing was not something that Lan Ling could know. Gu Shengyin could only say that she didn't know either. Seeing this, Feng Lin did not ask further. What happened to Gu Shengyin this time was simply unheard of. During the time when Gu Shengyin was in a coma, he also specially went to consult the elders of the Phoenix clan, but he did not get any useful results. Presumably, Lan Ling, who had just woken up, would not know. This was what Feng Lin thought in his heart. The two came to a place. From the outside, Gu Shengyin could only see a white fog-like scene. However, Feng Lin held her hand and walked directly into the white fog. As soon as they stepped into the white fog, the scene in front of Gu Shengyin changed dramatically. She widened her eyes and looked at the beautiful scenery in front of her with amazement. Chapter 1185. All she could see was a blazing red. Countless giant trees surrounded by translucent flames appeared in her line of sight. Those trees had white jade-like branches, but their leaves seemed to be the most gorgeous and translucent jade in the world. Such a passionate color seemed to want to release all the beauty of her life in this moment, even if she would enter eternal decay in the next moment. However, Gu Shengyin knew that they would not wither. The phoenix wood was a divine wood unique to the Phoenix clan. If it was not damaged by external forces, it could last for 10,000 years. She couldn't help but walk forward. When she reached under a phoenix tree, she reached out and gently touched the leaf that was wrapped around by the raging flame flash. As expected, there was no burning pain. Instead, it was warm and comfortable. Feng Lin did not follow her forward. Instead, he stood where he was and looked at the tree and ghost not far away. The phoenix wood was flamboyant and gorgeous, but it could not steal the elegance of the person under the tree. From the first time Feng Lin saw Gu Shengyin, he felt that it was a pity that this woman did not become a phoenix. Gu Shengyin seemed to have sensed something and turned to look at him. Sporadic leaves fell from the phoenix wood. It was more gorgeous and shocking than any rain of flowers in the world. And the woman in the rain of flowers looked back and smiled, capturing his gaze. Feng Lin suddenly had an impulse that he had never had before. He walked forward and pulled Gu Shengyin into his arms under her slightly puzzled gaze. His heart was beating so fast. This was Gu Shengyin's most intuitive feeling. Then she felt something warm gently cover her eyes. It was very light and gentle, making it easy for people to feel the other party's love and pity. That warmth gradually rolled down, from her eyelids to her nose, to her cheeks, and finally to her slightly opened lips. This was a very gentle kiss, which was very different from the feeling that Feng Lin usually gave people. Gu Shengyin quietly felt this man's unique gentleness. Lan Ling. He called her in a low voice. Every time he called out, Gu Shengyin softly hummed in acknowledgement. In this unique forest of phoenixes, Feng Lin carried Gu Shengyin like a child. The two of them hugged each other and spun around quietly in this deserted world. When they were tired, Gu Shengyin quietly closed his eyes and leaned into Feng Lin's arms. Feng Lin hugged the sleeping woman in his arms as if he was hugging the whole world. On this trip to the divine court, the two of them seemed to have tacitly agreed to something. Feng Lin brought Gu Shengyin to meet the elders of the Phoenix clan. As expected, they received the same blessings. In fact, the Phoenix clan was far of nature's eyes, of the world's eyes. Most importantly, this clan was famous for its beauty. From the elders of the clan to the newly born phoenix cubs, without exception, all of them were obsessed with looks. Gu Shengyin's SSS was rare even in the Phoenix clan. She easily captured the hearts of all the phoenixes. After all, Gu Shengyin was not a god yet. It was not good for her to live in the divine court for a long time. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with her, Feng Lin sent her back to the Lan Ling region. Lan Ling, wait for me. I'll go to the clan to make some preparations. I'll definitely bring you a grand proposal. Feng Lin looked into Gu Shengyin's eyes and said seriously. Chapter 1186. Gu Shengyin agreed. However, before Feng Lin could propose, she received the decree of the divine court. The mighty thunder tribulation she experienced not only shocked the entire Lanling region, but also the divine court. The divine court also investigated it, but in the end, they didn't find out the reason for the abnormality of the tribulation thunder. However, Gu Shengyin, a ghost cultivator who caused the abnormality, attracted the attention of the divine court. They also found out about her deeds over the years and learned about her realm, so the decree of the divine court was naturally issued. Watching the messenger from the divine court leave on a cloud, Gu Shengyin stroked the decree in her hand, feeling very calm. In fact, whether she was conferred or not, it didn't affect Ghost King Lanling's life. She was still the king in charge of the Lanling region, but it had become officially recognized by the divine court. Perhaps there was one more thing. The current Ghost King Lanling, no, it should be said that Lord Lanling was also a figure with a background. At least if someone wanted to attack the Lanling region in the future, they had to consider whether this action would arouse the anger of the divine court. 3 months after the decree of the divine court was issued, Gu Shengyin heard Jin's exclamation during an afternoon nap. She walked out of the hall door and looked up to see a scene that made people stop breathing. The hazy and gray sky above the Lanling region was lit up by countless fiery red lights. Several fiery red phoenixes with long and gorgeous tail feathers danced in the sky, silently performing a dazzling dance. The phoenix in the middle was the most familiar to Gu Shengyin. It was Feng Lin. Seeing her figure, Feng Lin's eyes lit up. Then he raised his neck high, and the crisp sound of a phoenix came into the ears of all the ghosts. Even if no one could tell what the sound meant, they could feel the meaning of the sound. This phoenix was seeking a mate. It was said that the most common ceremony of a phoenix seeking a mate was the phoenix dance. The most gorgeous dance of a male phoenix's life must be the one he danced for his mate. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Their eyes, ears, and minds were occupied by the dance and the long cry. How could there be such a beautiful dance in this world? Such a pleasant sound? How happy would a woman be to be proposed to like this? Gu Shengyin stood quietly on the spot, watching the phoenix fall from the sky to her side. Everyone watched the gorgeous phoenix fly around their lord Lanling 3 times, and then turn into a familiar figure. Feng Lin gently held her hand, and a fiery red jade token appeared in his palm. This is my natal spirit tablet. Lanling, are you willing to be its keeper? The holder of the life token could know his whereabouts and status at any time. Giving the token was the same as spreading oneself in front of that person. The Lord Lanling. The Lord Lanling. The Jade Lanling. Lord's hands Lord Lanling. She stretched out her hand, but she didn't take the jade tablet. Instead, she closed his palm. She took Lanling, as Fee Feather was Feng's Lanlinling, Lord Lanling Lanling's. I already have this, don't I? She said with a smile. Feng Lin's heart, which had been suspended because of her actions just now, finally relaxed. He then spoke of his purpose today. The Phoenix clan only has one partner in their life. They will rely on each other for a lifetime and will not abandon each other in life and death. Lanling, are you willing to be my partner? Chapter 1187. Of course. Under everyone's gaze, Gu Shengyin gave her answer. The grandest ceremony of the Phoenix clan was the once-in-a-lifetime proposal ceremony. As for the wedding, the Lanling region said, since you made the proposal so grand, we must get back at you for the wedding. So, the matter was settled. The wedding of the two would be held in the yin-yang world of the Lanling region. Jin and Wei Wei, who had found their true love, rubbed their palms together and said, we must hold a grand wedding ceremony so that the phoenixes won't look down on the Lanling region. Gu Shengyin looked at her subordinates, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After thinking about it, she still didn't have the heart to tell them that the Phoenix clan cared about the proposal the most. If the other party agreed to be partners, the ceremony would be completed. In other words, the Phoenix clan didn't care about the wedding. But since her subordinates were so enthusiastic, she didn't want to dampen their enthusiasm. Moreover, the wedding was not just for the phoenixes. She still valued her wedding very much. So when Feng Lin asked in confusion what the Lanling region was preparing for this period of time, Gu Xingyin was in a good mood and said that they were preparing for the wedding. Feng Lin was surprised for a moment. Gu Xingyin had a bad idea. She leaned close to Feng Lin's ear and whispered, "You gave me such a shocking proposal. I should return the favor with a grand wedding." Feng Lin nodded in realization. So that's how it was. But he felt that something was wrong. Gu Shengyin snickered. The poor phoenix didn't know that in the eyes of the human world and the other clans in the divine court, whoever held the wedding was the one who proposed. So thousands of years later, no matter what Feng Lin thought, many immortals and gods only knew that in order to marry immortal Feng Lin of the Phoenix God clan, immortal Lan Ling held an extremely grand wedding ceremony in the three realms. When Feng Lin knew the meaning of this, everyone in the three realms had already known about it. What could Feng Lin do? He didn't care about this reputation, but it didn't stop him from using this matter to get some benefits from Gu Xingyin. Of course, the relationship between husband and wife could only be achieved through certain harmonious matters. The next day, Feng Lin, who was refreshed, went out with a beaming face. It didn't matter who was going to marry her. What mattered was who was going to get the most benefits, wasn't it? Gu Xingyin gritted her teeth and said, "Who are they?" It was such a long time ago, yet they were still gossiping. Whether it was the phoenix, who was born as a god, or Gu Xingyin, who was conferred the title of True Lord, both of them had long lifespans. During their free time, the two of them would pretend to be an ordinary married couple and wander around the various corners of the three dimensions to experience a different life. Until the 5 decay of the celestial being arrived. Gu Xingyin could clearly feel that her body was slowly aging, and the spiritual power in her body was also slowly draining away. She didn't have long to live. Feng Lin also knew. However, neither of them revealed this matter. The two of them continued to play until the end of their lifespan. In the end, she could not hold on any longer. "Feng Lin, I am very happy in this life," Gu Xingyin said to Feng Lin with a smile on her face. Due to her weak body, she put on a thick cloak. Her long black hair was gray and mottled. Just like this body, she had reached the end of her life. Chapter 1188. Something flashed in Feng Lin's eyes. But he didn't care. He just looked at the woman beside him greedily. He couldn't even bear to blink. His throat was slightly dry. I'm also very happy." Gu Xingyin reached out her hands that were no longer moist to touch Feng Lin's face. "So you have to smile, Feng Lin. Don't feel sad. Didn't we agree? We will be together forever. I'm just leaving first. I will wait for you. In the next life, we will still be together." Hearing these last words, Feng Lin's emotions that had been suppressed finally collapsed. He gently hugged Gu Xingyin tightly in his arms. This person was too fragile now. He didn't even dare to use too much strength because he was afraid that she couldn't bear it and would hurt. In a place where Gu Xingyin couldn't see, some warm liquid fell on her cloak. I'm not sad. He didn't know if he wanted to convince her or himself. But Gu Xingyin couldn't see. How could she not hear his suppressed hoarse voice? She could only use all her strength to hug his body. "I love you, Feng Lin." This was something that Lan Ling had never said to Feng Lin in her life. Feng Lin had spent thousands of years to say this sentence, but he couldn't pry open Gu Xingyin's mouth. But if he had to hear it at the last moment of her life, Feng Lin would rather not hear it for the rest of his life. The hand that grabbed his clothes gradually lost strength. Feng Lin could clearly feel that the breath of the person in his arms weakened. "Lan Ling." He called softly, as if he was afraid that he would scare her if he was too loud. Then, Gu Xingyin responded softly and didn't say anything else. After a long time, there was an uncontrollable sobbing sound in this deserted land. If someone was here, they would be able to hear that this sobbing sound was like the wailing of a beast that had lost its partner. The wind stopped quietly, afraid to disturb the man who had just lost his love. The person in his arms seemed to have moved. Feng Lin quickly looked up. However, this one glance caused his eyes to almost pop out of their sockets. The figure of his beloved in his arms was slowly becoming transparent. That's right, even if she had become a deity, She was still a ghost cultivator. Ghost cultivators did not have physical bodies, only spiritual bodies. Once the main body died, the spirit body would naturally dissipate from this world. No, Lan Ling, there must be a way. Feng Lin's expression was a little crazy. He even tried to inject his spiritual power into this body that had lost its vitality to protect her body. But it was all in vain. He watched helplessly as the person in his arms turned into specks of starlight, losing all traces of her in this world before his eyes. He remained in a daze as he knelt on the spot. If someone passed by here, they would see a red-clothed man kneeling in front of a few pieces of clothing with a dazed expression on his face for several days. All the way until 10 days later, Feng Lin finally had a trace of reaction. He raised his right hand and a red light flew out from his palm toward the Phoenix clan in the 9 heavens. He gently picked up the clothes on the ground one by one and carefully put them on in order, as if they were still on a person's body. Then he gently hugged them in his arms. His posture was sincere, as if he was holding the most important treasure in his life. An illusory red flame ignited from his body. Lan Ling, I said that I would never abandon you in life and death. Feng Lin is here to accompany you. Chapter 1189. A long time ago, in this region known as Lanling, there was a Lanling ancient country. The eldest princess of the Lanling ancient country was the most beautiful girl in the country and was also blessed by the sorcerer god. Her eyes were as clear as the dew of early spring and her smile was even more mesmerizing than the most beautiful flower in the country. People said that the eldest princess was the pearl that the sorcerer god gave to the Lanling ancient country. She grew up without any worries and thought that she could live a carefree life. But war came. In that era, there were many wars between the small countries. To fight for treasures, slaves, beauties, land, any item was enough to be a reason to start a war. The neighboring Jie country started a war against the Lanling country. Moreover, the Lanling country was on the decline. The generals of the Lanling country died on the battlefield, and the people of the Lanling country faced the danger of being massacred. The eldest princess's father even wrote a will. Once the imperial city was broken, as the king, there was only one ending for him. If he didn't want to live in humiliation, he could only choose to die. Before that, he had arranged for his confidant to escort his beloved daughter out. But the eldest princess didn't accept such an arrangement. When no one had time to care about her, she ran to the priest palace of the Lanling country. There were a few witches praying quietly in the palace. This was the only quiet place in the Lanling country. The eldest princess walked into the main hall as usual. As a witch favored by the sorcerer god, she was supposed to become the great witch of the Lanling country and represent the sorcerer god to protect the country. Everyone, are you willing to protect the Lanling country with me for the last time? No one rejected. Under such a situation, personal benefits were so insignificant. The eldest princess and the witches used themselves as a sacrifice to awaken the power of the sorcerer god. The Jie country soldiers who were attacking the Lanling imperial city were attacked by an invisible attack. In the eyes of the Lanling country soldiers, they were like sand dunes that were blown by a strong wind and instantly turned to dust. The crisis of the Lanling country ended. The price was the lives of the eldest princess and her witches. Their souls were trapped and could never be reincarnated. The people of the Lanling country remembered the kindness of the eldest princess and the witches. They all set up memorial tablets in their homes to worship them. The faith from the people of the country nourished the soul that should have dissipated between heaven and earth. Several thousand years had passed, and the Lanling ancient kingdom had long been destroyed by the wind and sand. It had become a kingdom that only existed in legends. As for the eldest princess who had sacrificed herself for the sake of the country's resources, no one knew about her anymore. Until one day, the female ghost in red with clear and calm eyes opened her eyes underground. After being muddle-headed for thousands of years, she had long forgotten everything. The only thing that was clear in her mind was Lan Ling. It was something that she was willing to sacrifice her life to protect. Thus, a female ghost named Lan Ling appeared on this piece of land. A few years later, the yin and yang realms were unified, and the name of Ghost King Lan Ling spread. This powerful Ghost King had always been obsessed with the memories of her previous life, because she always felt that they must be very important. It wasn't until the 69 heavenly tribulations and the divine court summoned her that she finally saw her past and present lives in the three-world mirror of the divine court. So, my name is Yin Yang. Chapter 1190. System, start the next mission. Gu Xingyin had just returned to the space when she saw Feng Lin's final choice. Although she had already expected it, she still couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. The system's white light flashed. Host, do you really not need to rest? Traversing through mission worlds for a long time? Will it affect my body and soul? Gu Xingyin directly interrupted it. The system paused for a moment before replying, It won't, host. She didn't know why, but Gu Xingyin felt that she could hear a sense of dejection from the emotionless voice of the system. Is there a problem? She calmly asked. The system flashed white light again. No, host. It's just that I feel that you might need to rest. Gu Xingyin shook her head. I don't need it. Let's start the next mission. As a system, it couldn't interfere with any of the host's decisions. Transfer memories. Okay, host. Gu Xingyin hadn't even opened her eyes when she felt a cold liquid dripping down from above. It was really cold. Opening her eyes, Gu Xingyin discovered that it was raining. Occasionally, there would be people hurrying by, leaving behind a tall back view in her eyes. She lowered her head and glanced at her short and chubby paws. Gu Xingyin was dumbfounded for a moment. Then he decisively looked around and found a deserted place under the eaves. He crawled under an abandoned cardboard box with great effort. It was much warmer. She then began to organize the memories that the system had just transferred to her. Once the memories were transferred, she felt unwell for a few seconds. The original body of this body was actually a spirit beast that had long gone extinct in this world. Spiritual beasts could appear in any form, but the first appearance they took would be their original appearance in the future. This world was a technological plane. Simply speaking, the technological plane didn't believe in ghosts and gods. Things like ghosts and gods always existed if one believed in them. If one didn't believe in them, they didn't exist. Therefore, in this world where everyone believed in science, there was no existence of supernatural beings, let alone spiritual beasts, which sounded very high and mighty. However, this spiritual beast just had to appear. Gu Xingyin immediately asked the system, then wouldn't the original body's appearance be unreasonable? The system's white light flashed as it replied, Host, its existence is reasonable. The world's storyline has already acknowledged the existence of this spiritual beast. There was no problem with the consciousness of this spiritual beast. It was recognized by the laws of the world, and the host didn't have to worry about anything going wrong. Its origin, I don't know its origin. Gu Xingyin. Alright, she got it. Memories. This spiritual beast that appeared in this world in the form of a cat was currently in its infancy stage. Although spiritual beasts were extremely powerful and awesome existences after they matured, that was only after they matured. They were still in their infancy not long after they were born. They wouldn't be much stronger than ordinary animals. At most, their intelligence would be slightly more mature. This spiritual beast's appearance wasn't bad. Logically speaking, under normal circumstances, it was very likely that it would be adopted by a kind-hearted person who liked animals. After that, it would live a blissful life where it would be meticulously taken care of. Chapter 1191. But that was only a possibility. This spiritual beast didn't encounter such a good thing. She was indeed picked up by a little girl. But if the spiritual beast knew what happened later, no matter what happened, she would risk her life to stay away from that little pervert. That's right, little pervert. That girl, and Wei Wei, who liked to wear pink princess dresses and looked as beautiful as a doll, was a pervert with a twisted mind. Her family background was very good, but her parents were in a business marriage. They hated each other and each of them had their own little lovers outside. And Wei Wei, who was born in such a situation, had never lacked material comfort since she was young, but she had never enjoyed the warmth of a family. A child raised in such a family environment was very likely to have a completely different extreme personality, either a pure white lotus or an extremely cold and heartless one. The possibility of the latter appearing was much higher than the former. But Weiwei's personality was far more twisted than being cold and heartless. She looked obedient and sweet on the surface, but in private, she had a strong desire to be violent. There was a beast living in her heart. Every time she saw those soft and harmless, pitiful little animals, she couldn't help but want to be violent. She wanted to see them lying in front of her covered in blood, looking at the world in despair with their clear eyes, and then die miserably. When Weiwei found the spiritual beast in the heavy rain, she was in a very bad mood. As long as she was in a bad mood, she would want to be violent even more. The spiritual beast was brought home by Weiwei. Weiwei raised her with good food and watched as she turned from a pitiful little thing into a snow-white and precious little pet. The more beautiful the spiritual beast was, the sweeter the smile on Weiwei's face became. The butler who had been taking care of her thought that Miss liked this beautiful little thing, but he didn't know that his Miss liked this little thing. However, what she liked was the way it lay in a pool of blood. Spiritual beasts were different from ordinary animals. She was born with an extraordinary sensitivity to human auras. She could sense that although the beautiful human girl who brought her home smiled at her all day, she didn't like her. She only felt that she sensed danger from Weiwei and tried to leave. But how could Weiwei, who had been watching her, let her run away? What a sensitive little thing. Weiwei revealed a big smile. After that, the spiritual beast was brought into a sealed room. He never came out again. Gu Shengyin shuddered inexplicably as he looked at the long and bloody description. Sensing the cold wind outside and her own shivering body, Gu Shengyin admitted that she was cold. Weiwei's little pervert couldn't scare her. The inside of the box was dark and damp, while the outside was bleak and rainy. Gu Shengyin, who had traveled through countless worlds and lived like a princess, said that if she could open her mouth right now, she would be able to sing a tearful song. Wait in the heavy rain. Gu Shengyin came back to her senses. She was still in her infancy, and it was raining heavily outside. Right now, this body didn't have any ability to resist. Gu Shengyin tried her best to shrink her small body into the paper box to reduce her presence. Could it be that it was such a coincidence that Weiwei, that little pervert, took a fancy to her? Chapter 1192. Mr. Fong, this way please. A man in a black suit walked out of a building opposite them. His assistant held an umbrella for him. Gu Shengyin's eyes lit up when she saw him. She had an idea. Fang Yuhan had just finished a business meeting. He did not expect to encounter such bad weather when he came out. He looked at the gray sky and frowned. Fortunately, his assistant had placed a spare umbrella in the car. When he turned a corner, he suddenly heard a soft sound that sounded like a cat meowing. A cat meowing? He turned his head in confusion. The assistant was puzzled as to why his CEO had stopped in his tracks. He followed his CEO's gaze. A small head popped out of a cardboard box next to him. A cat? Fang Yuhan looked at the small thing that seemed to be struggling to crawl out of the cardboard box that was much bigger than its body. For some reason, he felt a little amused. It was so small. Fang Yuhan glanced at it. The kitten-like thing was probably only the size of his palm. It was obvious that it had just been born. Since it had appeared in such a place, it must have been abandoned. At this moment, its light fur was wet from the rain and stuck to its body. It looked very pathetic. Xiao? His assistant's careful voice pulled him back from his thoughts. Fang Yuhan shook his head and tried to get rid of his messy thoughts. What was wrong with him? Didn't he always dislike these delicate and fragile little creatures? Gu Shengyin had just crawled out of the cardboard box when she saw Fang Yuhan's back. She was dumbfounded. Just as she was about to chase after him, another car stopped not far from her. "Miss, there is a kitten here," a gentle voice said. Gu Shengyin's wet hair stood on end. The system had given her a clear notification. Weiwei was here. The person in the car was Weiwei. A small red umbrella opened from the car door and a small figure appeared in Gu Xingyin's line of sight. And Wei Wei's appearance was indeed very deceiving. Gu Xingyin thought so with a single glance. And Wei Wei's big, clear eyes swept over Gu Xingyin. She said softly, "Ah, what a pitiful kitten. Uncle Wen, shall we bring it home?" The middle-aged man called Uncle Wen frowned and said, "Miss, this stray cat is of unknown origin. We don't know if it has any virus. Moreover, these animals have no feelings. Miss, you've adopted so many small animals, but they all ran away as soon as their injuries were healed. It's obvious that they're not familiar with you." Gu Xingyin, "No, let those poor animals go. They didn't run away on their own, but they all died in the hands of your family's sweet and innocent young lady." "But Uncle Wen..." And Wei Wei began to act coquettishly, trying to bargain with the butler. Gu Xingyin ran in the direction of Fang Yuhan. "Did you guys ever consider my feelings when you were talking so passionately over there? I don't want to accept your kindness." And Wei Wei, who had finally convinced the butler, saw Gu Xingyin leave. She quickly shouted, "Oh, Uncle Wen, the kitten ran away. Quick, go after it." Gu Xingyin ran even faster when she heard this. Chapter 1193. What a joke. If An Weiwei really brought her back, Gu Xingyin couldn't guarantee that her tiny arms and legs would be able to escape from the An family's huge villa. Because of the rain, Fang Yuhan didn't walk very fast. When Gu Xingyin saw the figure in front of her, she suddenly felt her neck tighten. Someone was holding her soft flesh and lifting her up. "It hurts." She struggled futilely in midair with her 4 paws, but she couldn't grab anything. "Miss, I've caught this little guy." She heard the person who was holding her shout behind him. "Damn it." And Wei Wei's men still caught her. Gu Xingyin looked at Fang Yuhan, who didn't seem to have any reaction to what was happening. She opened her mouth and screamed. Fang Yuhan stopped in his tracks. He heard the pitiful cries of the little animal behind him. "President, what's wrong?" asked the assistant, puzzled. Fang Yuhan didn't answer. Instead, he turned around. Through the thick curtain of rain, he could see the little animal, which had been screaming at him earlier, being suspended in midair. It looked very miserable. When he saw the cold expression on the face of the person holding the little animal, Fang Yuhan suddenly felt very uncomfortable. He strode in the direction of Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin was still struggling. The man holding her seemed a little annoyed and scolded, "What are you screaming for? It's your fortune that Miss likes you. In the future, when you come to the An family, you'll be fed well. Isn't that better than wandering outside?" Gu Xingyin thought to herself, "Your miss didn't bring me back to feed me. She brought me back so that she could cut me open." When the man saw that the disobedient cat was still struggling with all its might, he subconsciously tightened his grip. "Stop it. If you continue, you'll suffer." "What do you want to do to my cat?" A cold voice sounded from beside him. When the man holding Gu Xingyin heard this voice, he couldn't help but shudder. He seemed to feel a little embarrassed, so he turned his head and shouted at the person who came, "What do you mean your cat?" "My hand is clearly..." His voice was stuck in his throat, because he clearly saw who the man in front of him was. His master had just struck a deal with the other party today. The head of the Fang family was someone that even his teacher had to treat with respect. If his teacher knew that he dared to yell at Mr. Fang, he couldn't help but shudder again and hurriedly put on a smile on his face. "So it's Mr. Fang. I was rude just now." Fang Yuhan glanced at him. He was not interested in listening to the man's nonsense. He simply pointed at Gu Xingyin in the man's hand. "You're hurting my cat," he said coldly. "Yours?" The man glanced at the dirty Gu Xingyin. It was clearly a stray cat that had just been born. "Mr. Fang, are you mistaken? This is a stray cat that I just picked up. Meow." Gu Xingyin meowed at Fang Yuhan, as if it was very eager to go to his side. Its actions were very intimate. The man hesitated. From the looks of it, it really did look like Mr. Fang's cat. Fang Yuhan strangely felt a sense of satisfaction from the little cat's actions. "Now, can you return my cat to me?" The man hesitated for a moment and decided that he couldn't offend Fang Yuhan. So, he quickly handed the cat over. Chapter 1194. However, when he handed the handkerchief over, Fang Yuhan's hands stiffened for a moment. To be honest, he didn't know why he felt uncomfortable when he saw the cat crying pitifully. That was why he had come over and told a lie. However, the little guy in front of him was dirty and wet. Fang Yuhan, who was obsessed with cleanliness, couldn't stand it. Just as he was about to take out a handkerchief from his pocket, Gu Shengyin jumped out of the man's hand and landed firmly on Fang Yuhan's shoulder. Meow! Gu Shengyin seemed to dislike the cold on his shoulder, so it looked around. Then, with a slight push of its hind legs, it jumped into its target, the pocket of Fang Yuhan's suit that he had just put his hand into. Fang Yuhan's entire body froze. He could feel a warmth in his left pocket that didn't belong to him. His first reaction was to reach out and throw this audacious guy to the ground. However, the other party did something else. Perhaps it was because the human body in the pocket was too warm, Gu Shengyin couldn't help but stretch out its little head and rub against the inside of his pocket. It even meowed softly. This sound was completely different from the frightened and shrill voice from before. Instead, it was filled with laziness and satisfaction. It was very happy. After realizing this, the trace of uneasiness in Fang Yuhan's heart strangely disappeared. Forget it. It's rare to meet such a little thing that I don't hate. I'll just keep it. The assistant beside him was dumbfounded when he saw the obvious muddy watermarks on his president and the dirty cat in his pocket. The people from the Yin family didn't know, but he could clearly see that the president didn't recognize the cat at all. Was this really the cold and misophobic president he knew? The assistant looked up at the sky and wondered if he was hallucinating because of the bad weather. "Let's go," the president said in his usual cold voice. The assistant turned around and met the president's cold gaze. He immediately went into professional mode. Sure enough, this was still the president. As for the cat, the assistant decided to forget about it. The person from the Yin family watched as the two people and the cat left under an umbrella in the heavy rain. He did not doubt Fang Yuhan's words. After all, he had seen the interaction between Mr. Fang and the cat. With President Fang's personality, if it wasn't his own, how could he allow a little bastard to be so impudent? He turned around and went back. And Wei Wei, who was waiting in the car, saw him come back empty-handed. Her expression was a little unpleasant. "Where's the cat?" The man said apologetically, "That kitten has an owner. Just now, its owner, Mr. Fang, came and took it away." Mr. Fang? Although Wei Wei was young, she knew very well that he wasn't someone she could afford to offend. Since it was his cat, then forget it. However, it was a pity. When she thought of the kitten shivering in the heavy rain, a trace of regret appeared in her eyes. That little thing must be very beautiful when its eyes were filled with despair. The housekeeper saw her like this and thought that she was unhappy because she liked the kitten. He thoughtfully bent down and suggested, "Miss, if you really like these little fellows, why don't we go to the cattery and raise one?" And Wei Wei smiled when she heard this. "Uncle Wen, you're the best." Chapter 1195. Fang Yuhan returned home with Gu Shengyin. For the convenience of his work, he did not live in a villa in the suburbs. Instead, he chose a high-end apartment near his company. It had 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. It was more than enough for one person. In addition, he was a bit of a clean freak and did not like outsiders. He also did not hire a servant at home. Instead, he regularly asked a housekeeping company to clean the house. When he returned home, the first thing Fang Yuhan did was take out the little fella from his pocket and placed her on the floor. A few small gray footprints appeared on the white floor in an instant. Fang Yuhan frowned and picked up Gu Shengyin, who had just regained her freedom. He was about to give this dirty little thing a bath. However, when he was about to use the bathroom, he suddenly remembered that he did not know how to do it. He remembered that his assistant had a cat at home. According to him, cats were precious creatures and could not be treated casually. Fang Yuhan frowned again. How troublesome. Thus, before the assistant reached home, he received an urgent call from his CEO. When he found out that the CEO had asked him to come over in such a serious tone, just to give the cat a bath and feed her, the assistant cried tears of sadness in his heart. In this day and age, the assistant had no human rights. The cat was the boss. No, this seemed to be a little girl. All right, let's change it a little. The cat was the boss. The assistant was filled with grief and anger as he gently gave Gu Shengyin a bath. However, when he finished bathing Gu Shengyin, the grief and indignation in his heart suddenly turned into shock. What a beautiful little thing. The kitten's fur was pure white and its eyes were a rare dark purple. When it looked at people quietly, it seemed to be infinitely mysterious and distant. It was noble and lazy. Furthermore, the assistant did not recognize what kind of cat it was. Her appearance was no different from an ordinary cat, but her tail was completely different from an ordinary cat. Instead, she had a big furry tail like a squirrel. He could imagine how tempting that fluffy tail would be when the kitten grew up. Forget it, if I can't figure it out, then I won't think about it. Maybe it's some kind of rare mutation? The warm male assistant looked at Gu Shengyin with sparkling eyes. The only thing he didn't do was hold his heart and shout, "Your Highness, let this servant serve you." Gu Shengyin looked arrogantly at the human who was looking at it with a silly expression and meowed proudly. The assistant immediately understood that the princess was hungry. He went to his own CEO's kitchen to search, but it was empty. Well, she probably didn't cook much either. The assistant said patiently, "Baby, wait a minute. I'll go to the supermarket to buy cat food for you." After saying that, he took his wallet and rushed out of the door. Gu Shengyin, wait a minute. Who said I wanted to eat cat food? Also, what the hell is a little baby? Gu Shengyin was still complaining when Fang Yuhan walked out of the bathroom in a bathrobe. Her eyes immediately fell on him. The collar of the bathrobe was not tied tightly, so a large area of skin was exposed from his collarbone to his chest. Gu Shengyin glanced at him, innocently, and commented in her heart, "Nice body." Below his waist were two strong and long legs. His muscles weren't exaggerated, but the smooth lines showed that the owner of this body wasn't someone who spent most of his time in an office. Fang Yuhan lowered his head and saw a beautiful little thing staring at him without blinking. Chapter 1196. Gu Shengyin blinked innocently. Right now, she was just a little beast that didn't know anything. In fact, Fang Yuhan only treated her as a little beast that didn't know anything. However, this little guy was surprisingly beautiful. A trace of admiration flashed across Fang Yuhan's eyes. If it weren't for the fact that it was in a sorry state in the heavy rain, many people would have fought to take it back. Fang Yuhan had seen many people who treated their pets like their ancestors, so he was quite calm. "Come here." He sat on the sofa and waved at Gu Shengyin, who was squatting on the other side of the sofa. Gu Shengyin did not hesitate. She cooperatively got up and walked over to him. However, she overestimated the balance of this body. Just as she was about to reach Fang Yuhan, she stumbled and her left leg hit her right leg. She was small and round like a ball, so she rolled directly toward Fang Yuhan. Meow! Gu Shengyin felt as if she had bumped into something hard. It didn't hurt, but it didn't feel comfortable either. She cried out in grievance. However, she did not receive a response from Fang Yuhan. Gu Shengyin raised her head and saw Fang Yuhan's strange expression. "What? Are you unhappy? Could it be that I'm going to hurt you?" Gu Shengyin stepped on the ground and wanted to jump onto Fang Yuhan's shoulder. Unexpectedly, she saw Fang Yuhan's expression change even more. She lowered her head in hindsight, and her heart instantly burst with embarrassment. It seemed that she had accidentally stepped on something terrible. If Gu Shengyin was a human, she would probably die of embarrassment. However, she was a spiritual beast. That's right, she was a spiritual beast that didn't know anything. Gu Shengyin comforted herself and pretended that nothing had happened. She gently jumped onto Fang Yuhan's shoulder and playfully patted Fang Yuhan's face with her soft front paws. It was as if he was saying, "What a bold fellow. You didn't help me up when you saw me fall." Fang Yuhan's uneasiness was washed away by the little girl's arrogance. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, and he couldn't help but smile. Fang Yuhan grabbed onto Gu Shengyin's tiny hands and pulled her off his shoulder. He then said to her in a serious tone, You can't just climb onto my shoulder. Otherwise, I won't bring you along. Gu Xingyin turned her back to him and said, Sorry, I'm just a cat. I don't understand anything. Fang Yuhan. He had only said it casually and did not expect the little beast to understand. But why did she feel that it could actually understand her? Fang Yuhan turned it around and pulled its hind legs apart to take a look. Gu Xingyin, what was he doing? Hooligan. However, Fang Yuhan couldn't understand what she was thinking. Instead, he muttered to himself, So, she's a young lady. Gu Xingyin, her heart was so tired. Did spiritual beasts not have animal rights? Fang Yuhan didn't realize that he had done something unacceptable. He simply held his chin and thought about a problem seriously. Since you're at my house, you should give me a name. Gu Xingyin was excited when she heard this. A name was very important. She hoped that this highly educated CEO had the aesthetic standards to match his education. In the original plot, Weiwei brought the spiritual beast home just to amuse herself. Why would she spend so much effort to give it a name? Fang Yuhan looked at the little cat, who was instantly energized and staring at him without blinking. His heart skipped a beat. She seemed to be able to understand human language. You'll be called, Ba Gingji is back. What should I call her? Take a guess, it's the last day of the month. Although I'm dead on the monthly votes list, I still have some food left. I'll feed Gao Lingji Mua. Chapter 1197. Fang Yuhan watched as the kitten perked up its ears. It seemed to care a lot about this matter. He was curious. Could it be that the kitten could understand human language? However, he simply assumed that the kitten was naturally more intelligent than other animals. He didn't think that there was anything magical about it. However, when he saw the look on her face, he couldn't help but want to tease her. Since you're so white, why don't we call you Xiaobai? A deep voice sounded from above her head. Gu Xingyin. She turned around and refused to communicate with the person in front of her. Fang Yuhan couldn't help but smile when he saw the human-like behavior of the kitten on his lap. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Let's call you Shueli, Gu Xingyin. Although the name wasn't that great, it was still better than Xiaobai's name. While she was thinking about it, Fang Yuhan thought that she was still unhappy. He frowned and said, If Shueli doesn't work, what about Snowball? Snowball? Snow? As he spoke, his assistant came in with a bunch of things. He happened to hear his so muttering to himself. When the assistant heard his CEO's words and realized that he was naming the kitten, he opened his mouth. However, he didn't dare to complain about his CEO's taste. What could he do? He was also afraid that his bonus would be deducted. In the end, Gu Xingyin's name was decided. It was a homonym for Shueli. After deciding on the name, the assistant was sent to the kitchen to prepare dinner for Fang Yuhan and the kitten. Fang Yuhan sat in the living room with Shueli in his arms and watched TV. His assistant, Xiao Lu, was very fast. This was Fang Yuhan's idea. He just needed to make 2 dishes. As for the cat food for Gu Xingyin, it was even more convenient. However, when Xiao Lu held the bowl of paste and looked at Gu Xingyin expectantly, Gu Xingyin turned her head away in disgust. I'm a psychic beast. A psychic beast. Don't treat me like a cat, okay? What's wrong? Fang Yuhan frowned and looked over. Knowing that he was unwilling to eat, he seemed a little worried. He asked his assistant, Is it because the food you make tastes awful? Xiao Lu, who was innocently implicated, Can you blame me for this? I'm just processing the cat food a little, okay? However, he didn't have the guts to yell at his boss. He could only say as calmly as possible, The taste of cat food is about the same. What he meant was that he wasn't going to take the blame. Fang Yuhan completely missed the point. Instead, he asked worriedly, What if Shirley doesn't like it? The assistant was also worried when he heard that. What if such a small kitten didn't eat? Gu Xingyin completely ignored the 2 worrisome fellows. She nimbly jumped from Fang Yuhan's lap to his arm and meowed at the 3 dishes and 1 soup that Xiao Lu had just made on the table. This king wants to eat. I don't want to eat cat food. Fang Yuhan's train of thought suddenly connected with hers. Do you want to eat the food on the table? Gu Xingyin's little white tail that hadn't grown up yet started wagging. That's right. Fang Yuhan's eyes lit up and he said to his assistant, "Go and get another small bowl." His assistant, Xiao Lu, was dumbfounded. "No, President, kittens can't eat human food. They will get sick," Gu Xingyin meowed at him. Then, she looked at the food in his hand that didn't taste good and revealed a look of disgust. "Xiao Lu, don't ask me why I can see disgust on a cat's face. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.